The massive chamber on Nexus Prime buzzed with the voices of dozens of alien species as Ambassador Krell stepped forward to address the Galactic Council. His red scales gleamed under the artificial lights as he spread his forearms wide in a gesture of authority. The Vorthic Empire had ruled this sector for over 3,000 years, and Krell knew how to command respect from lesser beings. "Fellow council members," Krell began, his voice echoing through the vast hall where representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered. "We face a new threat to our established order. The humans have been expanding beyond their designated boundaries at an alarming rate. They dare to claim worlds that rightfully belong to civilized species." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Quillen delegation, their cybernetic implants glowing blue in the dim light, nodded in unison. Their leader, Admiral Teth, spoke in his mechanical voice. "Our analysis confirms Ambassador Krell's assessment. Human technology is primitive at best. Their ships lack proper shielding and their weapons are crude, projectile-based systems. They pose no real military threat." The ethereal forms of the Etherian collective shimmered as their collective consciousness focused on the discussion. Their prime node spoke without moving its translucent lips, the words appearing directly in everyone's minds. "We have observed human behavior for 2 centuries since they achieved spaceflight. They are impulsive, emotional creatures driven by individual desires rather than collective wisdom. Their military tactics are chaotic and unpredictable." Krell smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Exactly my point. These humans have settled on 17 worlds in the past 50 years alone. They ignore our warnings and continue to spread like a virus through space. The time has come to remind them of their place in the galactic hierarchy." The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The 3 major powers had already decided humanity's fate before the session began. The smaller species in the Council feared opposing the Vorthic military might, the Quillen technological superiority, or the Etherian collective intelligence. One by one, they voiced their support for action against the human expansion. When the final vote was tallied, it was unanimous. The Galactic Council would issue an ultimatum to humanity: withdraw to their home system within 30 standard days or face complete extermination. Krell personally volunteered to deliver the message, eager to see the fear in human eyes when they realized their insignificance. On Earth, President Elena Rodriguez sat in the Oval Office reviewing the morning intelligence reports when her aide rushed in with an urgent communication from deep space. The message from the Galactic Council was clear and uncompromising. Humanity had 30 days to abandon all their colonies and return to Earth or face annihilation by forces beyond their comprehension. Rodriguez immediately called an emergency session with her top military advisors. General Marcus Webb arrived. First, his weathered face showing concern as he read the alien ultimatum. Admiral Rita Blackwood joined them minutes later, still wearing her uniform from the morning inspection of the Pacific Fleet. "What do we know about their military capabilities?" Rodriguez asked. Studying the holographic displays showing alien ship formations near human space, General Webb pulled up tactical assessments on his tablet. "Our intelligence suggests the Vorthic Empire alone has over 10,000 warships. Their technology is at least 50 years ahead of ours in most areas. The Quillens have fewer ships, but their technology is even more advanced. As for the Etherian collective, we barely understand how their bioships function." Admiral Blackwood leaned forward in her chair. "Madam President, our entire fleet consists of maybe 200 ships spread across 17 colonies. We're outnumbered 50 to 1 even if we could gather every vessel we have. And they expect us to simply give up everything we've built out there?" Rodriguez asked, her voice showing the first hint of anger. "New Geneva has 3 million colonists. Kepler Station supports the mining operations that keep our economy running. They want us to abandon all of that because they say so?" The discussion continued through the night as more advisors arrived to brief the president on various scenarios. Every analysis reached the same conclusion: humanity was hopelessly outmatched. The logical choice was to comply with the ultimatum and hope the aliens would allow Earth to exist in isolation. But something in the human spirit rebelled against that logic. By dawn, Rodriguez had made her decision. She would not order the colonies abandoned without a fight. If the aliens wanted humanity's worlds, they would have to take them by force. The first test came sooner than anyone expected. Admiral Blackwood was conducting routine patrol near New Geneva when her sensors detected 15 large vessels approaching the colony. The ships matched no known human design, and their energy signatures were unlike anything in the database. "This is Admiral Blackwood of the Human Defense Force," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You are approaching human territory without authorization. State your intentions." The response came in perfect English with a mechanical accent. "I am Commander Vex of the Vorthix Scouting Fleet. You will surrender your vessels immediately and prepare for inspection. Any resistance will be met with destruction." Blackwood looked at her tactical display. Her single destroyer faced 15 alien ships, each one larger than anything in the human fleet. The smart play was to withdraw and report back to Earth. But then her communications officer intercepted alien transmissions discussing the destruction of the civilian transports currently leaving New Geneva's surface. "Sir, they're targeting the evacuation ships," Lieutenant Morrison reported from his station. "Reading weapons lock on civilian vessels." Something cold settled in Blackwood's chest as she watched the alien ships move to intercept helpless transport vessels filled with families and children. She had spent 30 years in the Navy protecting human lives, and she would not stop now, regardless of the odds. "All stations, battle alert," she commanded. "Target the lead alien vessel and prepare to engage." "Admiral, we're severely outgunned," her tactical officer warned. "Their shields are already at full power and our weapons may not even penetrate their hull." Blackwood's response would echo through human space for years to come. "Then we'll ram them if we have to. No one threatens human civilians while I'm breathing." The battle lasted only 12 minutes, but it changed everything. The destroyer Human Pride engaged the alien fleet with suicidal fury, taking massive damage but refusing to retreat. When the ship's weapons failed, Blackwood ordered ramming speed toward the largest Vorthak vessel. The Pride's hull breached in 17 places before impact, but the crew continued fighting even as sections of their ship vented atmosphere into space. The aliens expected the human ship to surrender when faced with impossible odds. Instead, they witnessed something that violated every tactical doctrine in their military manuals. The humans fought past the point of reason, using damaged systems as weapons and continuing combat even as their ship died around them. When the Pride finally collided with the Vorthak flagship, the explosion took out 2 more alien vessels caught in the blast radius. Commander Vex escaped with the surviving ships, but his report to High Command would haunt the Vorthak Empire. 3 heavy cruisers destroyed by a single primitive human destroyer, 74 alien crew members dead. The human ship had been completely outmatched, yet somehow inflicted devastating casualties before its destruction. Back on Nexus Prime, Krell received Vex's report with growing disbelief. The humans were supposed to flee at the first sign of superior force. Instead, they had fought with a savagery that bordered on insanity. He dismissed most of the report as exaggeration brought on by the shock of unexpected losses, but deep in his mind, a seed of doubt began to grow. What kind of species continued fighting when defeat was certain? What kind of military doctrine called for ramming attacks against superior forces? And most disturbing of all, what would humans do when they had nothing left to lose? The 30-day ultimatum had 27 days remaining, but Krell was already beginning to suspect that the Galactic Council had awakened something far more dangerous than a primitive species with crude technology. They had challenged a race that seemed to view death as just another weapon to be used against their enemies. The war began at exactly 0800 hours Galactic Standard Time, when the combined fleets of the Vorthak Empire, Quillen Confederacy, and Etherian Collective launched simultaneous attacks on 12 human colonies. The aliens expected swift victory against the primitive human settlements scattered across the outer rim of the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee on Kepler Station when the proximity alarms began screaming. Through the observation deck windows, he watched as massive alien ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 37 vessels arranged in a classic Quillen attack pattern, their silver hulls gleaming with advanced armor plating, and energy shields that made the space around them shimmer like heat waves. "All hands to battle stations," Morrison announced over the station intercom, his voice calm despite the churning in his stomach. Kepler Station was primarily a mining facility with minimal defensive capabilities. Its small security force consisted of 6 patrol ships and 2 modified mining vessels equipped with basic weapons systems. The Quillen fleet commander opened communications, his artificial voice crackling through speakers throughout the station. "I am Admiral Tith of the Quillen Confederacy. You will surrender this facility immediately and submit to processing. Your cooperation will ensure minimal casualties among your population." Morrison studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet surrounding his station like wolves circling wounded prey. Behind him, his staff waited for orders that everyone knew would likely be their last. The smart thing to do was surrender, and hope the aliens showed mercy to civilians. But Morrison had been born on Earth during the resource wars, and he had learned early that sometimes the only choice was between dying on your feet or living on your knees. "This is Captain Morrison." He broadcast to the alien fleet. "I have a message for Admiral Tith and his fancy ships. We didn't come this far to kneel to anyone." The words were barely out of his mouth when the Quillen ships opened fire. Energy beams designed to disable rather than destroy struck the station's outer hull, cutting through armor plating like paper. The aliens wanted the mining facility intact for their own use, which gave Morrison the first piece of good news he'd had all morning. "Emergency Protocol 7, he ordered his staff. "Strip the mining charges from storage and rig them as warheads. Get me every piece of construction equipment we have and arm them with cutting tools. If they want this station, they'll have to take it piece by piece." The battle that followed defied every tactical manual in the Quillen database. The humans didn't fight like a military force defending a strategic position. They fought like cornered animals using whatever weapons they could improvise from industrial equipment. Mining mechs designed for asteroid excavation became impromptu war machines, their drill attachments and plasma cutters turning into deadly weapons against alien boarding parties when Quillen soldiers breached the station's hull expecting to face demoralized colonists. They instead encountered humans who had turned their workplace into a maze of booby traps and ambush points. Coffee makers became explosive devices. Artificial gravity generators were reversed to crush boarding parties against the ceiling. Even the station's waste recycling system was weaponized to flood alien-occupied sections with toxic gases. Admiral Tith watched from his flagship as his elite soldiers were systematically slaughtered by what should have been helpless civilians. The humans adapted to alien tactics in real time, learning from each encounter and developing countermeasures faster than any species in Quillen records. When his forces used energy shields, the humans switched to kinetic weapons. When they deployed sonic disruptors, the humans sealed themselves in vacuum suits and continued fighting in silence. The final straw came when Morrison realized the Quillens were preparing to use human civilians as shields to force his surrender. The alien admiral had gathered over 200 station personnel in the main docking bay, threatening to execute them unless Morrison ordered his remaining forces to stand down. Morrison's response became legendary throughout human space. He activated the station's emergency systems and vented the entire docking bay into space, along with himself and the Quillen soldiers holding the hostages. The sudden decompression killed everyone in the bay instantly, but it also eliminated the alien leverage and freed Morrison's remaining forces to continue fighting without restraint. The Quillen fleet retreated 6 hours later, leaving behind 47 dead soldiers and 3 damaged ships. They had captured Kepler Station, but the cost had been far higher than anyone anticipated. Admiral Teth's report to Quillen High Command would echo the confusion seen in Vorthak communications. The humans fought beyond logic, beyond reason, beyond any tactical doctrine in galactic military records on the jungle world of Haven's Rest. Colonel Diana Stone faced a different kind of nightmare. The Etherian Collective had deployed their bio-warriors against the human settlement, creatures that had conquered over 200 worlds through biological warfare. The aliens released airborne toxins designed to paralyze human nervous systems. Followed by predatory organisms engineered to hunt in dense vegetation, the bio-warriors were perfect killing machines, adapted for jungle warfare through millions of years of genetic modification. They could track human scent across vast distances. Their natural armor resisted most conventional weapons, and their toxins were lethal to any known species within minutes of contact. But the Etherian Collective had made one crucial miscalculation. They assumed humans would react to alien biochemistry the same way every other species had reacted. Instead, the colonists of Haven's Rest demonstrated humanity's greatest evolutionary advantage: adaptability under pressure. Colonel Stone organized her forces into small units that moved constantly through the jungle, never staying in one location long enough for the bio-warriors to establish hunting patterns. When the alien toxins proved lethal to direct exposure, the humans learned to construct protective gear from local plant materials that somehow neutralized the worst effects. More disturbing to the Etherian observers was how quickly humans learned to fight the bio-warriors on their own terms. The colonists studied the alien creatures' behavior patterns and developed hunting techniques specifically designed to exploit their weaknesses. They discovered that the bio-warriors' enhanced senses could be overwhelmed by certain combinations of jungle plants. They learned to use the creatures' own toxins against them by coating human weapons with extracted bio-warrior venom. Within 72 hours, the humans had not only survived the bio-warrior assault, but had begun hunting the alien creatures. FOR Sport. Colonel Stone's forces captured several bio-warriors alive and subjected them to experiments that would have been considered war crimes by galactic standards. They learned to extract and synthesize alien biochemistry, turning the Etherian weapons against their creators. The Etherian Collective began experiencing something their hive mind had never encountered in millions of years of existence: individual fear from each of their billion connected minds simultaneously. The bio-warriors were supposed to be the perfect biological weapons, yet somehow primitive humans had not only survived, but had turned predator against prey. Back on Earth, President Rodriguez received reports from the battlefronts with growing amazement and horror. Her military commanders had expected to lose every engagement against superior alien forces. Instead, humans were somehow winning through tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. General Webb pulled up casualty reports from all 12 battlefronts during the emergency council meeting. Madam President, we're taking heavy losses, but so are they. Our people are fighting like nothing I've ever seen before. They're not just defending positions, they're actively hunting alien forces using whatever weapons they can improvise. Admiral Blackwood nodded grimly as she reviewed footage from various battles. It's like they've awakened something in our species that was dormant until now. Something that doesn't recognize surrender as an option? Rodriguez studied the tactical displays showing human forces engaged across multiple star systems. Her people were vastly outnumbered and outgunned, yet somehow they were holding their own against 3 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. But the cost was horrifying, not just in human lives, but in the methods her forces were using to achieve victory. What are we becoming? She asked quietly, watching footage of human soldiers using alien corpses as weapons against their former comrades. General Webb's response would haunt the president for years to come. We're becoming whatever we need to become to survive. And apparently the galaxy has no idea what that means. The first phase of the war ended with all sides bloodied and confused. The aliens had expected quick victory against primitive humans. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to view death as just another tactical option. The humans had discovered something about themselves that perhaps they would have preferred to leave buried when pushed to the edge of extinction. They became something that made their enemies afraid of the dark. The Vorthic Empire's patience had run out after 3 months of unexpected human resistance. Emperor Drac personally authorized the deployment of the Death Hammers, massive siege ships designed to crack planetary crusts and reduce entire worlds to molten slag. The target was New Terra, humanity's most prosperous colony with over 15 million inhabitants. Commander Ryan Cross stood on the bridge of the human battleship, defiant as his sensors detected the approaching Vorthak fleet. 53 heavy warships, including 3 Death Hammers, each one capable of destroying a moon with sustained bombardment. His own force consisted of 8 human vessels, cobbled together from military ships unarmed, civilian craft that had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. "Sir, the Death Hammers are powering up their planet crackers," reported Lieutenant Davis from the tactical station. "They're not even bothering to demand our surrender this time." Cross watched the tactical display as the massive alien ships moved into bombardment formation above New Terra. The Death Hammers began their terrible work, sending streams of concentrated energy toward the planet's surface. Cities that had taken decades to build vanished in seconds as the alien weapons carved through the crust like a hot knife through butter. "How many people down there?" Cross asked quietly, his hands gripping the command chair as he watched millions of human lives being extinguished. "Latest census showed 15.3 million, Davis replied, his voice cracking slightly. "Current estimates suggest 12 million casualties in the first 15 minutes of bombardment." Something cold and terrible settled in Cross's chest as he watched the planet that had been humanity's crown jewel reduced to a burning hellscape. New Terra had been home to some of humanity's greatest achievements, universities that had produced Nobel Prize winners, research facilities that had advanced human technology by decades, art galleries filled with works that captured the beauty of human creativity. All of it was being destroyed by aliens who viewed human life as nothing more than an inconvenience to be eliminated. "Communications, get me a channel to all human forces in the system," Cross ordered, his voice carrying a tone his crew had never heard before, "and patch me through to Earth Command." When the connection was established, Cross looked directly into the camera that would broadcast his words across human space. "This is Commander Ryan Cross of the Defense Fleet. I'm looking at the murder of 12 million innocent people by aliens who think human life has no value. I want everyone listening to remember this moment. Remember what they did to New Terra. Remember that they started this." He paused, watching more cities disappear under alien bombardment. "I'm authorizing Protocol Omega. All human forces are ordered to engage under unlimited warfare doctrine. No restrictions. No mercy, no quarter given or expected." The words sent a chill through every human who heard them. Protocol Omega was a theoretical doctrine developed by human military planners but never intended for actual use. It represented the complete abandonment of civilized warfare in favor of tactics designed purely to ensure enemy extinction within hours of Cross's authorization. Human forces across the galaxy began implementing strategies that would have been unthinkable before New Terra's destruction. Dr. Lisa Park, a xenobiologist who had spent her career studying alien species for peaceful purposes, found herself reassigned to a military laboratory beneath the surface of Mars. "Doctor, we need weapons specifically designed to target alien biology," General Webb explained during her briefing. "Not just to kill them, but to make them suffer. We want their entire species to fear the consequences of threatening humanity." Park stared at the genetic samples and biological data that had been collected from captured alien soldiers. Her scientific training rebelled against using her knowledge for such purposes, but the images of New Terra's destruction played constantly on every screen in the facility. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" she asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "We're asking you to develop weapons that target each alien species at the genetic level," Webb replied. "Viruses that can spread through their populations. Toxins that affect their specific biology. Diseases that their immune systems can't fight. We want to make it impossible for them to continue this war." The work began immediately. Park's team dissected alien corpses with scientific precision, mapping nervous systems and identifying biological weaknesses. They discovered that Vorthak Brain chemistry was vulnerable to specific nanoplugs that could be introduced through their food supply. Quillen cybernetic implants could be infected with viruses that turned their own technology against them. Etherian collective consciousness relied on biological connections that could be severed with modified Earth diseases. The first test came when human forces deployed the Vorthic nanoplague on the border world of Crimson Station. The alien garrison of 10,000 soldiers began experiencing symptoms within hours: confusion, paralysis, and eventually complete neural shutdown. The plague spread through the Vorthic food processing systems, affecting every alien on the planet within 72 hours. But the nanoplague didn't just kill. It was designed to broadcast the dying thoughts of its victims to other Vorthic through their natural telepathic connections. Every death became a warning to the rest of their species about what humans were capable of unleashing. Admiral Tith of the Quillen fleet learned about human biological warfare when his own ships became infected with a virus that corrupted their cybernetic implants. The virus was spread through salvaged Quillen equipment that human forces had deliberately contaminated and left for alien forces to recover. Within days, entire Quillen fleets found their own technology turning against them as the virus reprogrammed their ship systems to attack other Quillen vessels. The Etherian collective faced perhaps the worst fate of all. Human forces deployed modified versions of common Earth diseases that had been engineered to target the biological connections that maintained their hive mind. Individual Etherians began experiencing private thoughts for the first time in their species' history, causing massive psychological trauma as their collective consciousness fragmented into billions of terrified individual minds. The galactic response to human biological warfare was immediate and horrified. The surviving alien leadership convened emergency sessions to discuss what they characterized as crimes against nature itself. The humans had violated every principle of civilized warfare by targeting entire species rather than just military forces. Ambassador Krell, now commanding the desperate remnants of the Vorthak fleet, sent a message to Earth demanding that humanity cease its biological attacks and return to conventional warfare. The human response came from President Rodriguez herself, broadcast on all frequencies throughout the galaxy. "You came to our worlds with planet-killing weapons," she said, her voice carrying the cold fury of an entire species. "You murdered 15 million innocent people on New Terra as an example to the rest of us. You expected us to submit to genocide because you considered yourselves superior beings." The president paused, her eyes showing no warmth or mercy. "You wanted to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Consider the lesson learned. We now understand that our place is wherever we choose to make it, and your place is wherever we allow you to exist." The broadcast continued with detailed descriptions of the biological weapons humanity had developed and deployed. Each alien species learned exactly how their biology had been weaponized against them and how many more weapons remained in human arsenals. The message was clear: surrender or face extinction. The alien coalition began to fracture as each species faced the possibility of complete biological annihilation. The Vorthic Empire recalled its fleets to defend their homeworlds. The Quillen Confederacy diverted resources to developing countermeasures against the cybernetic virus. The Etherian collective struggled to maintain cohesion as individual consciousness spread through their population like a plague. Commander Cross received reports of the first alien world falling to human biological warfare. Zephyria, home to 12 billion Vorthash, became a dead world within 72 hours as the nanoplague spread through their population. The planet's cities remained intact but empty, their inhabitants killed by weapons designed specifically to target Vorthic neurology. The galaxy watched in horror as humanity demonstrated that they fought not just to win wars, but to ensure their enemies could never threaten them again. The humans had crossed a line that most species considered unthinkable, using science itself as a weapon of mass extinction. Back on Earth, Dr. Park completed her latest project, a biological weapon designed to remain dormant in alien populations for generations before activating. The weapon would ensure that even if some aliens survived the current war, Their children and grandchildren would face the consequences of their species' decision to threaten humanity. "How many weapons do we have now?" General Webb asked during the weekly briefing. Park consulted her files with the detached efficiency of a scientist cataloging specimens. 17 different biological agents for the Vorthak, 12 cyberviruses for the Quillans, and 8 consciousness fragmenting diseases for the Etherians. We also have several broad-spectrum weapons that affect multiple species simultaneously. Webb nodded grimly. And production capacity? We can exterminate the entire galactic population within 6 months if necessary, Park replied without emotion. The weapons are designed to spread faster than any known cure can be developed. The transformation was complete. Humanity had evolved from a species that valued life and mercy into something that viewed extinction as just another tactical option. The galaxy had awakened something terrible in human nature, and now every alien species would pay the price for that mistake. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The fortress world of Bastion Prime had never been breached in over 2,000 years of galactic warfare. Built into the core of a dead planet and surrounded by automated defense systems that could destroy entire fleets, it served as the ultimate stronghold for the surviving alien leadership. Emperor Thane of the Vorthak High Processor Null of the Quillans, and the prime node of the Etherian collective had gathered here for the first time in centuries. United by their shared terror of humanity, the war had been raging for 8 months. And the alien coalition had lost over 60% of their combined forces. Worse than the military losses was the psychological damage inflicted by human biological warfare. Entire Vorthak colonies lived in constant fear of the nanoplague. Quillan technology could no longer be trusted as cyberviruses corrupted their most advanced systems. The Etherian collective had fragmented into billions of individual minds experiencing private consciousness for the first time in their species. Evolution, General Marcus Webb approached Bastion Prime with the largest human fleet ever assembled. 200 ships of various designs, most of them modified civilian vessels equipped with weapons that violated every galactic convention of warfare. The human fleet looked like a collection of scavengers compared to the sleek alien warships. But Webb knew that appearances could be deceiving when it came to human military doctrine. "Sir, we're detecting massive defensive installations around the planet," reported Captain Torres from the tactical station. "Energy shields automated, weapon platforms, and at least 50 defensive satellites in orbital positions." Webb studied the tactical display showing Bastion Prime's formidable defenses. The aliens had chosen their final battleground well, but they had made one crucial mistake. They still thought like civilized beings following the conventional rules of warfare. "Launch the prisoners," Webb ordered, his voice carrying the cold efficiency that had become standard among human commanders. The order sent shockwaves through his own crew, but they carried out the command without hesitation. 17 escape pods launched from the human fleet, each one containing captured alien soldiers who had been held in human custody for months. To any observer, it appeared that the humans were releasing their prisoners as a gesture of mercy. Before the final battle, the reality was far more sinister. Captain Torres had been captured during the battle for Kepler Station 6 months earlier, but his capture had been part of a larger human strategy that spanned multiple star systems. Every captured human soldier had been systematically infected with modified viruses designed to target specific alien biology. They weren't prisoners waiting for rescue. They were biological weapons walking into the heart of enemy territory. Emperor Thane watched the approaching human fleet from the command center deep beneath Bastion Prime's surface. His red scales had lost their luster over the months of constant stress, and his forearms trembled slightly as he reviewed casualty reports from across the galaxy. "They're releasing their prisoners," reported Admiral Vex, the scarred Vorthak commander who had survived the first encounter with human forces. 17 pods heading for our docking bays. High Processor Null's cybernetic implants flickered as he processed the tactical situation. It could be a gesture of surrender. Human military doctrine suggests they value individual lives above strategic considerations. The prime node of the Etherian collective struggled to maintain cohesion as its fragmented consciousness tried to focus on the immediate threat. Our analysis indicates deception. Human behavior patterns have changed significantly since the beginning of hostilities. But the alien leaders were desperate for any sign that humanity might be willing to negotiate. The prisoners were taken aboard Bastion Prime and placed in medical facilities for examination. Within hours, the biological weapons began their work. The viruses that Captain Torres and his fellow prisoners carried had been specifically engineered for maximum psychological impact. They didn't kill quickly like the weapons used on other worlds. Instead, they caused gradual neurological breakdown that allowed the victims to understand exactly what was happening to them. The dying aliens could communicate their suffering to others of their species. Spreading terror along with the biological agent, Lieutenant Sarah Knox led the first wave of human assault troops through the breach in Bastion Prime's outer defenses. Her soldiers moved with a predatory grace that made the galaxy's apex predators look like prey animals. The humans had learned to fight like their enemies, combining Vorthic ruthlessness, Quillan technological adaptation, and Etherian collective coordination, but with a human twist that made each borrowed tactic infinitely more terrifying. The battle for Bastion Prime became a nightmare of urban warfare as human forces penetrated deeper into the fortress world. Knox's teams used tactics that defied every principle of military engagement, turning the alien stronghold into a hunting ground where the hunters had become the hunted. "They're not fighting like soldiers," reported a surviving Vorthak commander to Emperor Thane. "They're hunting us like animals. They know our defensive positions better than we do." The truth was even more disturbing than the commander realized. Every captured human, every failed human attack, every apparent retreat over the past 8 months had been part of a strategy so vast and patient that it encompassed entire star systems. The humans had been mapping alien defenses, studying their tactics, and preparing for this final confrontation while appearing to be losing the war. Dr. Lisa Park had spent months analyzing the captured data from human soldiers who had been deliberately placed in alien custody. Each prisoner had been equipped with microscopic recording devices that transmitted intelligence back to human command. The aliens thought they were interrogating defeated enemies, but they were actually providing detailed information about their most secure facilities, the biological weapons spreading through. Bastion Prime served a dual purpose beyond killing the alien defenders. They also broadcast the location and status of every infected individual back to human forces, creating a real-time map of the fortress world's interior. The dying aliens became unwitting guides for the human assault teams. Emperor Thane realized the scope of human deception when his personal guards began showing symptoms of the biological weapon. The humans hadn't just infiltrated Bastion Prime. They had turned it into a death trap from within. Every alien on the planet was now infected with weapons designed specifically to target their biology. "How long do we have?" he asked his medical advisor, a Vorthic scientist who was already showing early signs of neural breakdown. "Based on the progression rate, the entire garrison will be incapacitated within 6 hours," the scientist replied, his voice slurring as the nanoplague affected his speech centers. "The weapon is designed to ensure we remain conscious long enough to understand what's happening to us." High processor Null's cybernetic systems began failing as the cyber virus spread through Bastion Prime's computer networks. The humans had infected their own prisoners with digital weapons as well as biological ones, ensuring that both organic and artificial intelligence would be compromised simultaneously. The Prime node of the Etherian collective experienced something no member of their species had ever felt: complete isolation from the collective consciousness. The fragmenting virus had spread through their population, turning their greatest strength into their greatest weakness as billions of individual minds cried out in terror and confusion. General Webb received reports of Bastion Prime's fall with grim satisfaction. The fortress world that had never been conquered in 2 millennia of warfare had fallen to human forces in less than 12 hours. But more importantly, the alien leadership was now in human custody, and with them the command codes for every remaining alien fleet in the galaxy. "What are your orders regarding the prisoners?" asked Colonel Stone, her voice carrying the same cold efficiency that had become standard among human officers. Webb considered the question while studying casualty reports from across the galaxy. Human losses had been horrific, but they had achieved something no other species in galactic history had managed: the complete defeat of 3 major galactic powers simultaneously. "Process them for intelligence extraction," he replied. "We need to know the location of every alien stronghold, every hidden fleet, every backup plan they might have, and we need to know how many other species might consider following their example." The interrogation of the alien leaders revealed the true scope of the threat humanity had faced. The Galactic Council had planned not just to force human withdrawal from their colonies, but to completely eliminate humanity as a species. The attack on New Terra had been intended as the first step in a systematic genocide, designed to serve as an example to other primitive species. "They were never going to let us live," President Rodriguez said quietly as she reviewed the intelligence reports. "Even if we had surrendered every colony, they planned to eliminate Earth itself once they had consolidated control over human space." The revelation changed everything. Humanity had not been fighting for territory or resources or political influence. They had been fighting for their species' survival against enemies who viewed them as an infestation to be exterminated. General Webb's response to this intelligence would shape galactic politics for centuries to come. "Then we'll make sure they never get the chance to threaten anyone again." The hunt began immediately. Human forces, now equipped with complete intelligence about alien fleet positions and defensive capabilities, launched simultaneous attacks across the galaxy. The remaining alien ships found themselves facing enemies who knew their exact locations, their tactical weaknesses, and their command structures. But the humans weren't content with military victory. They pursued the fleeing alien forces with a systematic thoroughness that terrified every species in the galaxy. No safe harbor was too remote, no hiding place too obscure, no plea for mercy too desperate to stop the human advance. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated that they didn't just defeat their enemies or even destroy them. They erased them from existence entirely, leaving no trace that they had ever threatened human space. The message was clear to every watching species. The cost of challenging humanity was not just defeat, but complete extinction. The war was no longer about human survival. It had become about ensuring that no alien species would ever again make the mistake of viewing humanity as prey rather than predator. The war officially ended not with a peace treaty but with silence. Across the galaxy, alien communication networks fell quiet as species after species simply stopped broadcasting. Some had been exterminated by human biological weapons. Others had fled to the deepest reaches of unexplored space. The rest huddled in hidden colonies, too terrified to risk drawing human attention. Captain Emma Stone, now promoted to admiral, stood in the command center of the newly constructed orbital station above what had once been the Vorthak homeworld. The planet below showed no signs of its former inhabitants. Human terraforming equipment worked systematically to remake the atmosphere for human colonization, while automated systems ensured that the world would remain uninhabitable for any Vorthak who might attempt to return. "Admiral, we're receiving another surrender request," reported Lieutenant Commander Blake from the communications station. "This one's from the Zephyrian Republic. They're offering unconditional submission and requesting permission to continue existing." Stone studied the tactical display showing human fleets positioned throughout what had once been alien space. Over the past year since Bastion Prime's fall, humanity had not merely conquered their enemies' territories. They had systematically replaced them, turning alien worlds into human colonies while ensuring the original inhabitants could never reclaim their homes. "What's our current assessment of the Zephyrians?" Stone asked her intelligence officer. "Low-level technology, no significant military capability. Population of about 8 billion spread across 12 worlds," came the reply. "They've had no contact with the former Galactic Council and shown no signs of aggressive expansion." Essentially a farming civilization that got caught up in events beyond their control. Stone nodded thoughtfully. The Zephyrians represented the kind of problem humanity faced across the galaxy: what to do with species that pose no threat, but might develop into threats given enough time and opportunity. Send them the standard response, she ordered. They may continue to exist under human oversight. Any attempt to develop spacefaring military technology will result in immediate sterilization of their worlds. Any attempt to contact other alien species without human approval will have the same consequence. The standard response had become humanity's diplomatic doctrine for dealing with surviving alien civilizations. Species that submitted completely and accepted permanent human oversight could continue to exist. Those that showed any sign of independence or potential threat were eliminated without warning or negotiation. On Earth, President Rodriguez reviewed reports from human administrators across the galaxy during her morning briefing. The war had transformed not just humanity's military capabilities but their entire approach to galactic politics. Where once humans had sought cooperation and peaceful coexistence, they now enforced absolute dominance through fear and the threat of extinction. How many species have we granted continued existence status? She asked General Webb, who now served as Secretary of Galactic Security. 47 species across 133 worlds, Webb replied, consulting his tablet. All of them have accepted permanent monitoring and restrictions on technological development. We haven't had any violations of the oversight protocols in the past 6 months. Dr. Lisa Park, now Director of Galactic Defense, presented her monthly report on the surveillance network humanity had established throughout known space. Every human world was equipped with monitoring stations that could detect signs of alien military development or communication across thousands of light years. The network was designed to identify potential threats decades before they could become actual dangers. Our deep space sensors have identified 17 previously unknown species in the Outer Rim, Park reported. All of them appear to be pre-spaceflight civilizations. We're monitoring their development to determine if they show signs of aggressive tendencies. The monitoring reports made for disturbing reading. Humanity now watched alien civilizations like a farmer watching livestock, ready to cull any species that showed signs of becoming dangerous. The galaxy had become a human preserve where other life forms existed only by permission and under constant surveillance. What about the refugee populations? Rodriguez asked, referring to the scattered remnants of the former Galactic Council species who had fled human space. General Webb pulled up star charts showing the unexplored regions beyond human territory. Long-range reconnaissance indicates significant population clusters in the void sectors. Best estimates suggest around 2 billion Vortex survivors, maybe 5 billion Quillans, and an unknown number of Etherian fragments. They're trying to rebuild their civilizations in exile. And our response? Containment for now, Webb replied. We're establishing monitoring stations along the borders of human space to ensure they don't attempt to return. If they start showing signs of rebuilding military capability or attempting to contact surviving species in our territory, we'll extend our borders to include their hiding places. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the frontier. Admiral Stone's voice crackled through the speakers in the president's briefing room, carrying news that would test humanity's new galactic doctrine. Madam President, we've detected a large alien fleet approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Unknown species, estimated 50 ships with technology that doesn't match any known alien design. They're broadcasting messages in multiple languages, requesting peaceful contact. Rodriguez felt a chill run down her spine. Another alien species meant another potential threat to human dominance. The war with the Galactic Council had taught humanity that alien contact inevitably led to conflict, and humans could never again afford to be caught unprepared. What's your assessment of their intentions? She asked Stone. Unknown at this time, but they're approaching human space with a significant military force. In our experience, peaceful species don't need 50 warships to deliver diplomatic messages. The president looked around the briefing room at the faces of her advisors. These were the people who had guided humanity through its transformation from a hopeful species seeking galactic friendship to a dominant force that ruled through fear and the threat of extinction. "Recommendations?" she asked. Dr. Park spoke. First, her voice carrying the cold analysis that had become characteristic of human leadership. "We should assume hostile intent until proven otherwise. Our biological weapons may not be effective against unknown alien biochemistry, so we need to develop new countermeasures immediately." General Webb nodded in agreement. "We can't afford another war like the one with the Galactic Council. If this new species represents a threat, we should eliminate them before they have a chance to study our tactics or form alliances with the refugee populations." Admiral Stone's voice came through the communicator again. "Madam President, they're requesting permission to establish diplomatic contact. They claim to be peaceful explorers from another galaxy who detected signs of advanced civilization in our region." Rodriguez considered the options facing humanity. They could attempt peaceful first contact and risk repeating the mistakes that had led to the Galactic War. They could wait and see what the aliens wanted, giving them time to potentially prepare for conflict. Or they could apply the lessons learned from their previous experience with alien contact. "Admiral Stone, you are authorized to implement the new Terra Protocol," she said quietly. The new Terra Protocol represented humanity's final evolution in dealing with alien contact. Named after the world whose destruction had triggered humanity's transformation into a galactic terror, the protocol called for the immediate elimination of any unknown alien force that approached human space with military capability. "Understood, Madam President," Stone replied. "All human fleets in the sector are moving to intercept. We'll document their technology for analysis before sterilization." The brief battle that followed became another entry in the growing list of alien civilizations that had made the mistake of contacting humanity. The unknown species fought bravely, but their weapons and tactics were no match for human forces that had been forged in the crucible of total war. Within 6 hours, 50 alien ships had been reduced to debris and radiation, but the victory came with a disturbing revelation. Analysis of the alien ships revealed technology far more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had possessed. These beings had apparently traveled between galaxies, suggesting levels of scientific achievement that dwarfed human capabilities. "They were more advanced than us," Dr. Park reported during the post-battle analysis. "Their ships show evidence of faster-than-light travel methods we don't understand and weapons that could have devastated our fleets if they had chosen to use them aggressively." The implications were staggering. Humanity had just destroyed a species that might have been peaceful explorers with technology that could have advanced human civilization by centuries. But the decision had been made based on the fundamental lesson of the Galactic War. Alien contact meant alien threat, and threats had to be eliminated before they could threaten human survival. Years passed as humanity consolidated its control over the galaxy. The monitoring networks expanded to cover every known star system. The biological weapon stockpiles grew to ensure that any potential threat could be eliminated within hours of detection. The surveillance systems became so sophisticated that alien civilizations couldn't develop simple agriculture without human knowledge. The galaxy had become quiet. Trade routes that had bustled with alien commerce for millennia now carried only human ships. Worlds that had hosted diverse alien cultures for thousands of years were either empty or populated by human colonists, who built their cities over the ruins of previous civilizations. In a small settlement on the edge of human space, an alien child of the Kaleri species asked his elder about the ancient ruins near their farming community. The old Kaleri looked up at the stars that his people had once dreamed of reaching and told the child the story that had become universal truth throughout the galaxy. "Long ago, little one, our people and many others reached for the stars and built great ships that carried us between worlds. We thought we were the masters of space and that any new species we encountered would bow to our superior knowledge and power." The child listened with wide eyes as the elder continued his tale. But then we met the humans, and we learned that some species should never be awakened from their peaceful slumber. The humans showed us that there are things worse than death. In the universe, there is the complete erasure of everything your people ever accomplished or hoped to achieve. What happened to all the star-traveling people? The child asked. The elder's response had become the galaxy's most fundamental truth, whispered in fear across 1,000 worlds where the survivors huddled under human oversight. They met the humans, little one. And now we know to never look up at the night sky and dream of conquest again. The humans watch from the darkness between stars, and they remember every species that ever threatened them. So we live quietly, we farm our small plots of land, and we teach our children to never again reach for the stars that belong to humanity alone. The galaxy had learned to fear the name humanity more than any natural disaster or cosmic catastrophe. Peace had come at last, but it was the peace of the graveyard, enforced by a species that had discovered they preferred to be feared rather than loved, dominant rather than equal, and alone rather than vulnerable to the ambitions of others.